Rayan Cherki might just be the best pound for pound signing this season in the Premier League. And I'm trying to figure out, in terms of all the other players who have been signed across the summer, across January, if there's been a better pound for pound signing than Rayan Cherki. I'm telling you now, this kid, this guy, whatever you want to call him, he is special. Let's get into it. So, obviously, when we're looking at Rayan Cherki, man, listen, obviously, we've just come off the back of the game against Chelsea, where Manchester City obviously won 3-0, comfortable win in the end. First half did look a little bit, a little bit. I would say Chelsea were at least in the game. If we're just going by the first half anyway, but Manchester City, I don't know what happened in that half time, but they just turned it up. They completely turned it up, and Rayan Cherki was a massive part of that. But we've said that a few times this season. Now, one of the things obviously that we had at the beginning of the season, and a lot of you are going to remember, you know what I'm saying, you're going to remember the conversations about Florian Wirtz versus Rayan Cherki. Now obviously one was only bought for 34 million, the other one was bought for about 116 million pounds. So obviously you're talking about almost, God, what, four times whatever it is, the yeah, what's that, 4 3s 12, so yeah, just under about four times the amount that was obviously spent on one player. And then of course you've got this other player who was available for this amount for 34 million. Now of course, one of the things, and I spoke about this in my previous video, so you guys go and check that out. It's obviously the video talking about Florian Wirtz and my kind of opinion on him since signing for Liverpool this season. When we're looking at Rayan Cherki and Florian Wirtz, like if we're just using those two as the comparison, now I get it, of course. Ultimately, you're looking at two players. They don't get to determine the fees that they obviously signed for, sold for, blah blah blah, different contexts and all these other things. That part is absolutely fine. But ultimately, you then look at the clubs. So you look at Liverpool, for example, and Liverpool felt that someone of the quality, and listen, they're both two good players, regardless, and regardless of what I kind of think about Florian Wirtz, I still think he's a good player. It's just more about how good do I really think he actually is, and I still think there's question marks in and around it, just because he hasn't really shown that, in my opinion, at the highest level, as of yet. But there are, I guess, some people would say glimpses, here and there. With Rayan Cherki, I feel like this is a kid that I've been watching. I keep saying kid, but this is a guy that I've been watching for a very, very long time, since he was in the youth teams in Lyon. And I actually thought he wouldn't even, not not that he wouldn't make the youth teams, but again, I probably fell into the media stuff because a lot of people, on social media and just even news journalists and things like that, again, whether it's true or not, I have no idea, but it was all about the attitude. Now, that's obviously a different conversation because I felt that that was more of a stereotype more than anything else. I didn't really feel like it was coming from an honest place. I always felt that you looked at this player, you looked at the style, the the technique, the way that he kind of plays the game. And then I just always felt like there was this narrative built around Rayan Cherki. There was always this, yeah, he's a bit lazy. He thinks he's the dog's bollocks and all these kind of things, right? All these kind of rhetorics that you just kind of, you hear and you keep hearing it. And of course, listen, ultimately we all listen to the news, we all listen to journalists, we see what's on social media. And if things get pushed out enough, you start to believe the narrative regardless of who you might think you are, unless you know better or you know any different and you know the truth, you're always going to believe the narratives that are obviously pushed out there. So I always felt that there was this narrative just always pushed about Cherki. Now, again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong or it's true or it's false. I have no idea. I just never really cared. If I'm being totally honest with you, that was just never something that I looked at and said, yeah, this is going to be a reason as to why I might not necessarily like this player. You know what I mean? So that was always something that I kind of always looked at and just kind of felt, yeah, I don't really care. This is a player who he's the talent level is just off the charts. Like I said, from when his youth days in Lyon and for the France youth teams as well, he just looked a cut above the rest. But of course, we don't know if that's going to be able to translate into that kind of men's team. And obviously, Lyon going through their own financial problems. Obviously, they've had to get let go of someone like Rayan Cherki. Of course, he'd probably be worth about 80, 90 million. in today's market, if I'm being totally honest with you, just because of the type of player that he is in terms of the position that he obviously plays as well. He can play across, whether it's on the left, whether it's on the right, whether it's through the middle as a false nine, behind the strike, whatever you want to call it. He can play in all those attacking areas, and I think a player like that, obviously, if you're just talking positionally, obviously has the similarities to a Florian Wirtz, and of course, Florian Wirtz doing really well under, Xabi Alonso, the unbeaten season, so many goals, so many assists, and obviously we keep looking at these things. One thing I will say though, and I found quite interesting was always that kind of that thing we always say, farmers leagues and stuff like that. Obviously, Leon, no, I say Leon, but France obviously got PSG, and then you've got the Bundesliga in Bayern Munich, obviously always winning it and stuff like that. Now, obviously, these are two players who don't play for those teams, and they were still thriving. So, I just always find that funny because I'm always like, do we rate those leagues, or do we not rate those leagues? I feel like a lot of players come from those leagues anyway, but then we don't rate the league. I don't know. It's a weird one. I feel like that's a different type of conversation that maybe we can have in the future about that, because one minute everyone says they don't rate the leagues, but then you see players like Elise, you see players like Harry Kane, you see Luis Diaz. Obviously, he's just gone there. Now people are rating these players tenfold, but you don't rate the league. So really, you shouldn't really rate these players. You shouldn't rate Elise. Shouldn't rate Jamal Musiala. Shouldn't rate Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, Xabi Alonso. Why would you rate them? Do you get what I mean? Because you don't rate the league. So they're in that league. And if they're doing well in that league, to, by everybody else's logic, it should just then be, well, that's just because the league is very easy and it's not a good league. And especially when you play for those kind of top teams. But going back to, Rayan Cherki, like I said, I just think this season, since signing, for Manchester City, he's just. I mean, let's look here. Obviously, his market value. This is obviously according to FOTMOB. His market value back in 2022 was 13 million. Let's see. Then obviously signs for 34 million. Then he's gone up again. Now it's at. Is that the highest? Yeah, I think the highest it's been. Yes, 56 million. So that's what his market value is, according to FOTMOB, of course, right? So take that with a pinch of salt, kind of thing, if you want to. But yeah, he's just honestly, man, he's just a top player, man. Like it's more for me. I think when it comes to players like Rayan Cherki, right? I think it's not like, obviously the stats are good. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Look, he's got 3 goals, he's got 10 assists as well this season in the Premier League alone. What that is, if you include the Champions League, I don't know. But yeah, he's got those goals, he's got those assists. Now that's great. Now, obviously, because of the society that we live in and in today's kind of world, look, and look, even look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games without a goal or an assist. Does anybody care? No. Well, I say no, but people obviously do care, but I don't care. I mean, anybody else or most other players, people look at, oh my God, he's gone 7 games without a goal and assist. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost like, oh my God, like, what are we doing? Kind of thing. And I'm always like, I genuinely don't care. I really don't care. That's not what I'm looking at someone like a Rayan Cherki. I don't care about his goals. I don't care about his assists. Now, obviously, I'm not silly. I'm not saying have zero. Do you know what I mean? Of course, you got to have something. You can't just have nothing. But ultimately, it's what he does on the pitch, taking games by the scruff of the neck, picking up the ball and doing something. I even heard Pep Guardiola speaking about Rayan Cherki, and I think he was talking about, Rayan Cherki being too close to the goalkeeper, picking up the ball from the defense and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah. So there's even things that the manager isn't even potentially even necessarily telling him to do. But guess what? He still understands that this is a player that, listen, you're better further forward. So that's on Cherki himself. That's something he needs to improve upon. That's nothing to do with the manager, because clearly he doesn't actually want him to do that. But the game is the game, kind of thing. But it's just, forget even today's game. Just look at other games that you've watched. Cherki, he's always trying to make something happen. Always. And I know people sometimes, he's done the whole kick ups and all of this kind of stuff. And He's always juggling the ball, and he's always doing some type of trick or skill. And obviously, well, I love these things when I'm watching the game. It makes it fun to watch. Because it's not just boring and it's just pass, and no, he makes things happen. He always wants to be in the danger zones. He always wants to be trying to affect the game, even when he's having crap games. And he's had games that, don't get twisted. I'm not sitting here saying he's had flawless. No, he hasn't had a flawless season. He's had games where I thought, he's been kind of rubbish today. Pep needs to take him off, kind of thing. But overall, I look at him and I just think, I'm not saying he's worth 116 million. I'm definitely not saying that, right? But it's just for me, it's just one of them kind of things. I think with a Rayan Cherki, I'm just looking at him and I'm saying, again, it's not about whether or not I think he's worth, because I don't think either of them are. I'll just say it now so we can get it out of the way. I don't think he's worth 120 million. I don't think, or 160 million. I don't think Florian Wirtz is worth that kind of money, right? I think when you're just looking at players, obviously context it depends on what your team is trying to do. It depends on what kind of things you're looking for from certain players. But I just always felt like, why don't you go like for that price, bro? You like, that is, to me, that is such a Liverpool deal, and I just don't understand as to why that kind of deal, just wasn't done. And I think that's what frustrates me so much, is because I look at it and I think to myself, rah, like, you really, said Florian Wirtz is worth almost 4 times more than this player. Like, you genuinely sat there and said, no, I think he's worth that kind of price. And listen, if you do, then you do, in it. Like, it's ultimately it's your choices, right? And you got to kind of live and die by that, especially when you spend that kind of money. But I just felt like, yo, for 34 million, like, you almost couldn't even go wrong, because whether it works out, doesn't work out, it's 34 million. How much we buy Oxlade Chamberlain for? And bear in mind, this is 34 million in today's market, and you're getting that level of player. Even if, let's just go with the assumption that you just feel that Florian Wirtz was just a better player. That's not a problem whatsoever. Do you get what I'm saying? And then, you know what? You'd have some credibility towards that, right? He's had an unbeaten season. He's played well for the last couple of seasons over there in Germany. So yeah, I wouldn't have had any real issue kind of thing with that kind of conversation. But for 34 million, you could have potentially have snagged someone like him. And we all just sat there, not just Liverpool, all fans just sat there and said, no, Man City, you take him. This is the club that can spend hundreds, and we just let them take this guy for 34 million. That's crazy. That is too crazy, man. Yeah, look, man. Obviously, this is per 90 minutes. Obviously, Florian Wirtz and Rayan Cherki. Well, I mean, I looked at this earlier on anyway. They're not actually far apart in in some numbers anyway. Goals from outside the box. What I found interesting was right-footed goals, 0.2 per game for both of them. I found that so funny, because I was like, what foot is Cherki? But we don't know. Obviously, you can see Vert's got better conversion rate. Open play passes completed 54 to 45. Assists 0.7 per game to 0.2. Chances created 2.9 to 2.3. Again, it's not massive. Like, there's no crazy. I'm just trying to show you, because I'm just like, this is what I always prefer, and I know Enz always talks about this. I always prefer per 90 anyway. Obviously, context is, so for example, they both played the same amount of what they played 2 games apart. So Florian versus played more games in the Premier League, right? If it was a bigger gap, then I probably would look at totals and stuff like that, just so that you can get more of a context. But when it's this close, I'm always like, nah, per 90 is probably a better gauge of things, because then you can kind of see, you know, across a season, as opposed to when you look at a total. One thing I always say to people who always use Scorecard and they talk about it, I'm like, when you use total, you got to remember, with total, there's no real context. You could have had one game where you done, I don't know, 200 of your passes, for example, in one game. But in other games, it was only like 50 here, like 60 there. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, at least this way we can look at an average across a season kind of thing. And I feel, anyway, for me personally, you get a better reading of these kind of things anyway. But again, each to their own, man. Like it's just something I always think about when I see people use Scorecard, and I see it on social media, because people always put up the comparison thing, and I'm always like, I don't want to see the totals. I want to see what they like over across the season. Yeah, do you get what I'm saying? Because then we need to start looking at, stylistics. It's just all long. Um, Passes attempted, completed, passing accuracy, again close, but Cherki just edges it. Through balls per game, 1.5 per 90 minutes. Forward passes, again close, but Cherki obviously edges that. Take-ons completed 2.7 to 1.6. He recovers more balls per 90. He makes more, has more touches. Again, they're close numbers, by the way. I don't want this to, the whole point of me even showing you guys this isn't to say, oh my God, like Florian Wirtz is way off. No, 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 no. He's close in a lot of these things. But what I'm just trying to get people to understand is on that guy is worth 116 and this guy is worth 34. Now, couldn't we have got someone else? Even let's just say you would have got someone for like, I don't know, let's in between the 30 and 120. I don't know what, someone for like 60, 70 M's who could kind of probably even do the same thing as maybe either or. Do you get what I'm saying? Like that was my point when I spoke about Florian Wirtz in my video. It was to just kind of show this. It's like this is what you're buying. Do you get what I'm saying? Just for good measure, I'll obviously do the totals as well. So you can look immediately. You can see Florian Wirtz has had this played 700 more minutes. So straight away you're like, oh, okay, cool. He's had more. So he's probably gonna have more in these metrics. Let's see. Let's see. Yep, all of them. Conversion rate better. Open play passes 1,050 to 833. Assists obviously he dwarfs that. Chances created 44 to 53. Pass attempted, pass completed. This is all Florian Wirtz, as I expect. To be fair, take on success, ball recoveries, and touches in opposition box. So 105 to 144. But yeah, I mean that's only based off the two more extra games. I don't know what that is in terms of sub appearances for both players, because I know both players haven't obviously always started their games. But yeah, man, like I said, for me, I just feel Rayan Cherki is just a bargain of the season, man. Like I'm struggling. I really, really am. And listen, as it is at this moment in time, it's already a struggle trying to pick a good player this season. I know everyone's been having a conversation about who should be the player of the season. I don't know, because I don't think anyone's really been that good. But Rayan Cherki would be up there. He'd be in my top three thinking anyway. If I was thinking of a player of the season, it'd be between like a him, maybe like a Bruno Fernandes, and one of the Arsenal guys. So you can pick any one of them. To be honest, I feel like they've all kind of been on the same kind of level anyway. So pick any one of them, and I feel like you're good. I feel like that can round off your top three, and then it's just about, I guess, who you decide has been the one. But if we're talking about signing of the season, um, Brentford's is it the striker? I'm sure they signed him in the summer. If so, then he definitely would be up there again in my top two or three thinking. Um, but I'm definitely looking at Shirky, and for me, he's just more of the best pound for pound signing. When I think about how much you signed for, the team you signed for, the expectations placed upon you, I feel like you've kind of probably already met what those expectations are. Probably maybe scored a little bit more. Maybe if we're going to be critical, I would say yeah, maybe get a few more goals. Um, Again, he's not the complete player, nor is Florian Wirtz by that measure. But yeah, he's not the complete player. Still got things he needs to work on, concentration levels at times. Um, but yeah, this is just, I don't know, man. It's just something when I'm watching. It's just I'm like, this is what I would expect when I sign a player of this kind of level. So imagine what my brain is thinking when I sign a player for crazy amounts. Do you get what I'm saying? Then I'm like, bro, I don't care what the team is on. Because let's not act like Man City were doing great the whole season. Do you get what I'm saying? It's only been in the last whatever where they've just gone on this kind of mazy run, been knocked out of the Champions League. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's not like they've been doing amazing the whole season. They've been kind of, yeah. And I think the players have even spoken about that, how they've just been on and off kind of form. But yeah, listen, man, you guys let me know in the comment section who you think has been a better signing, pound for pound signing, this season for anybody. It doesn't even have to be in the Premier League. If you think there's someone out there in Europe who's been a better signing than this, then yeah, please do let me know in the comment section. I would absolutely love to know. But for me, it's Rayan Cherki, absolute baller. What a player. Wish we had signed him. Unfortunate we didn't. And I think he's going to go on to do really, really good things. I think he's just going to keep getting better and better. And it looks like Manchester City have just done it again. Do you know what I mean? Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, obviously Phil Foden, but he's kind of tailored off a little bit. Obviously, didn't sign him, but he's a really, really good player. Obviously, David Silva previously, they seem to get these attacking players, and it's rarely misses with these guys. They've had a few, don't get twisted, but it's rarely a miss. It's rarely a miss. But like I said, man, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, people, and I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.